it sold out?
Oh yeah.
Cool.
It sold out instantly.
Instantly?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
2.5 days.
Wait list?
There's like
solid
50,
wait list.
yeah.
Dang.
And it keeps growing. And I'm not seeing drops like I used to.
Yeah.
Last year we had a lot more drops. And I'm just not. Like, I told a lot of people, like, if you get on the wait list, you'll get in.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of starting to wonder if they will.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we still have, 3 or 4 months, so it'll...
Yeah. 3 or 4 months of, people.
Injuries.
Yeah,
or
injuries.
What did I sign up for?
I mean, am I going to be able to train because there's so much snow?
Yeah. One guy, I remember last year, a guy signed up, and, like, within a week, he goes, so I have to be honest... I was drunk when I signed up. He's like, can I cancel?
You're like, no, you're in.
You're in.
So we canceled him.
Oh, man.
I think he still had to pay half, though.
That's amazing.
That's what you get for getting drunk and signing up for a race.
Oh, that gave him like that liquid courage to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I always say, though, you should have a shot of whiskey right before you sign up for these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's no small endeavor.
No.
Just signing up for it. Like, oh, yeah. I can probably do that in 6 months. 6 months rolls around pretty fast.
Yeah.
2
months later,
Really
like,
fast.
really fast. Yeah.
I should have started 2 months ago.
Yeah, big time.
What are the requirements on the Crazy Mountain 100 for prerequisites?
Right now, which might change, is a 50-miler. Has to be run before June 30th. And it basically, like, it can't be your first ultra. And then it has to have 6,500 feet of gain in the 50-mile race, and it has to be on trail. I keep going back and forth about it because I just want to make sure that people are properly prepared for it. And we've kind of felt like we, as in me and people on my medical team and just friends and volunteers and such, thought of like the bare minimum of proving that you can run and that you're not quite in over your head. But the first year we found out that doesn't quite mean that you're ready for it. But it's just kind of a baseline kind of waiver type deal.
Yeah.
Next year it's going to be you have to have run it by the day you register, just to kind of stop people from running their first 50-miler right before the race.
After they sign up.
Yeah.
Some of that was going on.
Yeah, that's going on. I mean, and it's fine. It's like, it's doable. I probably would at one point in my life done the same thing, but I want people to run this race and not get injured and get into the sport of ultra and stay here. I don't want people just kind of, dabbling in it and then trying to run one of the hardest hundreds, I assume is probably top 5 hardest in the country. So, yeah.
Wild.
That's amazing.
Last year, how many people finished and how many people did not finish?
We had, I think, 132 people started, and we had 73 finish. It was just over 55%. I'm sure I got the numbers a little wrong, but just over half finished from who started,
Dang.
Yeah.
And that's a first-year race, too. First-year 100-miler.
Yeah.
Which is pretty astonishing.
I can't believe that many people signed up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they say I did something right, maybe promoting it, or maybe people just put some blind faith in me. But, I mean, I like to think I did my homework and I kind of knew what I was doing. So that many people trusted.
Yeah.
Man.
So I was thankful for that.
It's so awesome. Is that the cap for the number this year? Is it going to be about the same?
So we raised it to 200 this year. The Forest Service allowed me to add 50 entrants. So, yeah, 50 more.
So is the cap like 250 or 200?
Cap's 200.
200.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it always goes by how much I personally feel is sustainable in the range. It's never going to be 500 people I just don't feel comfortable putting that many people on a trail at once. I just don't think that's sustainable. So like, I don't think I'll ever go over maybe 250. But the Forest Service and I working together to kind of make sure we move slowly and see the impacts in the range and see if it works. And then if it does, then we can add more to it at the time. So yeah, less impact, the better.
Yeah, it is really amazing too. Like first year races, especially 100-milers, let alone any ultra, they kind of get a bad rap. People are nervous to go and try out a first year race. But I wonder too, just like there isn't a 100-miler in Montana, so maybe it's the allure of Montana too. I don't know. As you see and talk to people, there has to be some common themes amongst them, I'd imagine.
I think there was several things going, but that was definitely one of them.
Yeah.
Montana doesn't have 100. Everyone, I mean, we have such a stacked community of ultra runners out here, and they're some of the most underrated, I think, and there's just phenomenal athletes.
Yeah.
But we always travel, like closest is Idaho or Colorado or those areas to get to one. So to have one in our backyard, I think it was super appealing for a lot of people. And I think the Crazies itself is one of the main appeals because everyone wants to run in the Crazies. But for whatever reason, no one actually goes and runs in the Crazies that often. It's hard to get access points. It's hard to make like a good, nice route for the day because most of those routes require hours of driving. There is a good loop out there, but I've done it myself and it was sketchy at points. There's no trail in the loop and there's a lot of class 4 climbing and I was not prepared for that. I would not suggest doing that unless you're good at rock climbing. But yeah, there's just a lot of barriers to getting out there and getting a good run in. And it's, for our area, it's a solid commitment for the day, if not camping overnight.
Yeah.
So having that ability to run 100 miles all put together at once in the Crazies has never happened. And it can't happen unless you're in this position.
And the scenery. I mean, anyone who's seen the Crazies from the road or driving by or in pictures, probably one of the most beautiful ranges in the state for sure.
Yeah. It's like the little island of Little Switzerland is kind of what it looks like.
That's what we were talking earlier too. And I'm like, Crazy since I've been in Montana, just been known for like, don't go up there. If you're going to go to the top of any of the peaks, like you have to wear a helmet because there's so much shale. And a mountain goat, literally a herd of mountain goats kick shale down on you and you'll be sliding for your life. Yeah. On the shale, it's really loose and really, really rugged. And they've always had that kind of, that bad rap, so to speak.
I mean, people do die in the Crazies.
Yeah.
Often.
Yeah.
But disclaimer, they're not going where we go.
True.
There are some sketchy spots on the course, but it's not, helmet and mountain goat country.
I can only imagine too, just curious, take us back. Like, how did this start for you? When did it dawn on you that this would even be possible? 100-milers in Montana in the crazy mountains.
That's a very long story.
We got time.
I've always loved ultra running, and not always, but kind of when I got into it, just like the lure of going out to hundreds and the community and everything, and just kind of, it's addicting. You get into it, and then you find yourself, I don't know, in it really deep. And again, there was no 100 in Montana. Mm-hmm. I had some experience race directing with the Ridge Run. I paced and crewed tons of people and had all that experience. And I just kept thinking, like, why isn't there a good 100 here that we can all enjoy and like show off our skills? Because there's so many good runners. And anytime we go to races, it's like, if you have 10 people from our area, it's like really cool. And it's like this great community. But I was like, wouldn't that be cool if we had something here that we can all show up to, and it'd be this like great showcase of Montana running. Mm-hmm. And so I just kind of jokingly said it to a few friends, like, we should have a race here. And then I bought some maps of some different ranges that I would love to run in.
Yep.
My criteria is always high alpine, lots of vert, very remote, and really pretty.
Yeah.
I would never put on a race if that didn't count all of those things.
Yeah.
It's not, I'd get bored. I wouldn't be able to sell it. It just like, I wouldn't do it myself. So I started buying maps and scribbling on them and just drawing routes and thinking like, I could put this together. I could do that. And then that happened for like 6 months. And then just, I started thinking, well, if I really wanted to do this, I need to start like calling people or figuring out how I'm supposed to do this. And then I started calling like the Forest Service and this and that. And that's when it kind of like slapped me in the face of like, oh, you can't just go in the Spanish Peaks and throw 100 miles together and cross the highway, because that's kind of a safety risk. And
all the logistics.
it's all wilderness. So like they wouldn't even entertain the idea of a permit. And so that really put a big roadblock in there, because most of Montana's backcountry has wilderness protection, all sorts of different levels of protection, which I found to be actually kind of cool, because that means there's less people. It means there aren't 20 races out there, which it's a catch-22. It's like you don't want it overpopulated, but you also don't want no access. So, yeah, I just kind of started looking at different ranges, all these places that I would like to go, and nothing was working really. And then one day I got the map of the Crazies, and I was like, well, this is a really dumb idea. Like you can't put 100 miles together. And like, there's too much private. There's no, access or whatever. And I just started drawing and drawing some more. And then I was like, oh man, like this might actually work. But the problem is there's too much private. So it took me probably 1.5 years to call landowners.
Yeah.
Tell them who I was, then get told no. Or, some people would laugh at me, or some people would think that I wanted to do something that it wasn't.
Yep.
Until, it was people that I knew, someone that knew them, or you kind of start having to tell them like, hey, I'm a cattle rancher. I believe in the same things you do. I don't want people trespassing on my property.
Yeah.
I don't want, people abusing the privilege. All of these things are super important to me. And then when I started making those connections, that's when people started saying, maybe.
That's cool, because that's like a factor that probably made it possible,
For sure.
almost impossible for anyone else to do. Is that like, because you're a rancher, you're able to relate with a lot of those folks.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a lot of roadblocks, but I also was able to kind of make really good relationships and connections with these people.
Yeah.
And even with the access, it was still like, okay, now how do I get these trails even to line out? Because you still have that problem. So I drew the map like 30 times. There was so many routes. And then I'd finally get to a place where like, I can connect to this trail through this private, but then does this trail even exist? And then I'd have to go out there and look, and then it didn't. So then I'd spend an entire day bushwhacking with my friend Jenna, and bless her heart, she was there for the ride. But it was always just like, where are we?
Oh, my
Oh,
gosh.
man.
And then like you'd finally figure something out, and then the landowner would say no. So then it would just be like back to the drawing board. So yeah, it took a while, but like finally I got enough people to say yes. Some like parts of me still kind of like giggle at the thought of like, why did you say yes to me? Like this makes no sense.
Yeah. Thank
Were
you.
any of the landowners like really excited about the idea?
Yeah. So our finish line is actually Kari Marks. She runs the Cattle Women's Ranch Run. So, not the Cattle Women's, but the ranch run. And so that has been a race that people run. You can like get in groups of people, and they kind of go through ranch land and promote the ag community. And like, so she's a runner herself. She loves organizing races. And when I got a hold of her, she was like, absolutely, like, this will be great. We can showcase the ranch. We can have everyone here. And I was like, okay, you are definitely someone I need to work with.
Yep.
Like, you already know the name of the game. So she was super excited. And then our start line, the Westlings, man, that was a wild few years working with them. I worked with the granddad and the dad, and both of them actually ended up passing away within, I think, 6 months of each other.
Wild.
And it was just like one tragedy after another. And so thankfully their son still works with me. And so that was just kind of a really hard thing to deal with. Like, such a nice family, just wonderful people. And they were excited. They had their whole plan of like sitting at the start line and like drinking some beer and like looking at all of the like cute runners that went by. The granddad and the dad were single bachelors, and they're just like, do you think we can, like, you know, find a wife or find a girlfriend? I was like, absolutely.
That's amazing.
So yeah, and then we go through the Voldseths. They've been absolutely wonderful. They've got a outfitting camp on their property, and we use their cabin or their lodge. That's one of my favorite aid stations. Wow. They're just like amazing. They run elk hunts up in the Forest Service there, and they've been operating for years. So they were really accommodating. Yeah, just everyone's all the. Oh, and then we've got the Muffy Murray. She's like true cowgirl, and just like she's got some cool history to her too. Just super nice. Lets us go through there and trespass through there just to get it connected. That was key to getting the north and the south end put together. But yeah, those are the 4 major families that we go through.
Did you run into a lot of like diversity in land ownership too in the Crazies, with a lot of like multi-generational cattle ranches are in the Crazies, but then a lot of little chunks of like out of state, like wealthy kind of trophy properties? Did you have to navigate through some of that?
Yeah, for sure. In the initial stages, I wanted to use the East Trunk Trail, but I had never been on it. And there is no East Trunk Trail for anyone that's tried.
You can try.
Yeah, you can try, but you're not going to get it. There's actually a land swap deal that's going in, right? Or it's up for public, or was up for public comment. They're going to actually do a land swap and then rebuild the trail a little higher. But for the past, 2 decades, it's been a huge fight in the Crazies. Landowners and the people trespassing and public landowners, and everyone's kind of been at odds with each other. But that's a whole nother discussion. But yeah, I did try kind of getting into that, and I found out pretty quickly that it just wasn't going to happen, and the forest wasn't going to permit me it anyways. So there's some trophy hunting properties through there. And then there's a lot of just kind of like little lots where you can't really get a name for, but they're out of state and they don't utilize the property. But there is a lot of multi-generation ranches. That's all we use. And they've been, involved in the land for as long as they can remember. So
how long did it take from start to finish, like from the idea until the race?
A little over 2 years. Yeah. The permitting was an issue, because it was their first permit that they had ever ran or put together in that Lewis and Clark Forest Service there. So it was kind of like navigating how to get that done. And that took the longest, about a year. But yeah, I believe it was about 2 years. I don't know. I lost track of time. Feels like a lifetime.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really, really unique too, just to be able to blend all of that too. And it's kind of, I don't know, I've known you for a long time, and like you and your life and what you love to do, it seems like a culmination of so many things that you love, which is like very evident in the kind of the passion that goes into the race and the stoke factor that people have too. So
Yeah, I think I try to bring that into the race too, because all like with the race, I also want to kind of showcase that of the diversity we have in Montana of sports and hunting and ag and everything in between. And so and it really took all of those people groups coming together to actually put this on. I mean, I couldn't have done it without the ag community, without, I mean, the hunting community, even like those are the guys and girls that are coming out and helping me.
yes.
You know, we're trimming trail, we're volunteering, you guys run cow camp. Like it's all just kind of a melting pot of all sorts of people. And the native community, like we had Shane Doyle come out and do a blessing over the race last year. And it was, I mean, I still have goosebumps from it. It was just so cool to kind of showcase the history of the land there. And now Shane, you have to come back every year. He's planning on coming back every year. He loved it.
Oh yeah, there's so many of that crew too,
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, some of those runners, Eric Stiffarm, and like, I'm like, they're
insane.
such rad individuals,
Yeah.
and to be able to go do that on their land too, I'm like, gosh, it's
Yeah.
really special.
It's really special.
It's super special. It definitely was like the highlight of my family's year, just helping out at the aid station and like going in with the horses and the mules and hanging out. Just hanging out in camp was like its own experience that was super unique. But then each runner has such a unique story, and being able to talk to them as they come through, it was so awesome.
Yeah. Just like everything that those runners experience too. You get that little dose at an aid station. And even for the families at the start and finish, just seeing that, like where else would they see this kind of silly event of a bunch of people running through all this country in a relatively quick amount of time and seeing it all.
For
and
fun.
sharing that. Yeah. For fun and snacks.
Yeah.
For fun
Mostly
and
the snacks.
Yeah. Great snacks though.
Big time.
I had to buy all of Costco's pierogies like 3 months ago because someone told me they were seasonal, and last year I couldn't find them, and I had them on my menu for everyone because I love pierogies. I had them at Tianaway 100 the year before, and I swear they brought me back from death. And I ate like 6 of them, and I had a worse stomach ache, but they were just so good. I was like, these have to be at my race.
It was hard.
And I told everyone about them, and then they didn't have them. I looked everywhere. So I have like a chest freezer full of pierogies. They are not coming to the race this year. Yeah.
I mean, we like literally had one pack horse with nothing but Coca-Cola and ginger ale. Like it packed to the brim, top pack, everything, Coca-Cola and ginger ale. I was just like, holy smokes.
You have to have it.
They drank it all.
Yeah.
You need that. You need that dextrose.
And
You
pizza.
need the sugar. Yeah. You
Yeah.
need pizza. You need good hearty food. And it really does help people for sure. I mean, they're burning a ton of calories, but get to share that experience with them in the middle of the backcountry, which is really wild.
Yeah. Everyone asked for Coke.
Yeah.
I mean, to testament to you guys, like that was my most nerve-wracking aid station, is because I didn't know if I could convince anybody to do what you guys did. And it was just instantly, you and Nick were like, we're in, we got it. Sorry, aid station. Like, are you guys kidding me? Like, this is a big deal. And then I thought to thinking like, oh, well, they know. Like, of all the people that I could think of putting that aid station together, you guys were on the top of my list.
Oh my gosh.
You always bring the stoke. You always go way out. Y'all dressed like cows. Like,
we had such a great crew, and it is so fun to participate in it in that little notch canyon that is cow camp too, and you get to see people 2 times, which is very special. And yeah, our crew is like above and beyond. Like, however we can make it fun and a party, like that's always a goal.
Yeah.
Just with the ultra running community is really unique in that regard too. It's like it's such a positive community, so much so that I'm like, I don't think that you can be a really negative person and finish a 100-miler.
Yeah.
Honestly, like you may be able to finish it, but you're not going to finish another one.
yeah.
But like to be able to build people up in that fashion was just like, oh man, we're looking forward to it. And now we actually have a list defined with all the quantities of everything that we need. Because we're like, we have to feed people 2 times. And then they're coming back with pacers.
Yeah.
So it's all this like, I don't
lot.
know if we are going to have enough. We did run out of Coca-Cola and ginger ale. So it's like a horse and a half worth of Coca-Cola and ginger ale, I think is actually.
I think you guys ran out of Coke and ginger ale too.
Yeah.
Like, but there's no way of knowing. And
No.
Like I did the math. I even asked other race directors, like, how do you quantify this? Because I was like, I don't know who's gonna, how many people are gonna drop even. So I did the math for 150 runners, and apparently I didn't do the math, too correctly, or something got mixed up. I think there was a few like items missing from certain aid stations, but like it's hard.
Yeah.
Now I have a better understanding, that there's going to be around 50 to 60% finish rate on average.
Yep.
It'll sway 10% probably. I only have 1 year to compare it to. So like, who knows if it's like raining or snowing, then it might be even less.
Yeah. Snowpack.
So you can only, I'm definitely an over prepare for that kind of thing. I mean, people are paying money to come out here and they expect food.
Yeah.
They're not going to get their handheld, but they'll get food,
Yep.
water, electrolytes, all the stuff. But yeah, it's hard to figure out like how much per aid station. And you don't want to overdo it because you got all that food,
Yep.
which I had lots of food when I got home.
We should let the listeners know about some of the race logistics and why this is in the top 5 hardest races in the country. So can you break down like some of the vert and elevation of the Crazy Mountain 100?
Yeah. So I would categorize it maybe top 5. I'm sure everyone has their own opinions of what it is. I did have a good friend of mine, Trevor, who has ran Hard Rock. He volunteers for Hard Rock. He's very, very aware of Hard Rock. He told me that this race would be harder than Hard Rock if it had just been a little higher in elevation.
Okay.
So for footing wise, trail rise, navigating, all of that put together, he says it's definitely very, very hard. So if someone's looking to run their first 100, I would highly suggest not doing this one, but it can be done. And I would never deter anyone, but I have to like put it out there as a disclaimer like this. And the problem is that a lot of races will say, this is the hardest race in the country, or this is like harder than this, and kind of oversell it. But I'm not overselling it. Like, we live in Montana, and I feel like unless you live in Montana or Colorado, maybe true backcountry mountain running is a thing of its own. And so it's kind of hard to explain that and realize who you're talking to. So like something that I would think is very hard might not be the same as someone else's idea of that. So with that said, this is a very hard race. There's some things register it, or some data you can GPX it and do all this other stuff, and it says 25,000 feet of gain. Others will say as low as 20. So like, I've been trying to find a happy medium, and I've looked at it with 3 different watches and like 5 different apps for mapping, and they all say something different. So I did an average. Let's just say it's 23,000 feet
Of gain.
Of gain. And people are very funny about their watches. That my watch is right. I wear a Sunto. My watch is right. I wear a Koros. This is exactly 100.3769 miles or something like that. I don't care what watch you have.
Yeah.
It's going to be different, but I do my best. I did map it with different watches just to like give people that data. So like at mile 102, when you think you're supposed to be done and you're just pissed off that you're not, you know what to expect. But it is, it's 100 miles ish.
Yeah.
100 miles ish.
Yeah.
23,000 ish of gain.
Of gain. Yep. Relatively equal vert. I think there's more downhill by like 500 feet. So it's mostly downhill. But the real 2 tough things within that is the elevation. It's not the highest, but it's definitely up there.
It's Montana.
It's Montana.
Yeah.
And you get up to 10,200 feet. And especially if you're from lower level areas, you will get elevation issues from that. anyone lives here will get elevation issues from that. And you spend quite a bit of time up there. So that's definitely a factor. It's not a factor as say like Hard Rock where you're up there like the entire time. But it's certainly a factor. And then exposure. There was a lot of people last year that got, they're up near Conical Peak and lightning storm came through, and you do your best to kind of prepare people, but it's not, it's scary when you're on that mountain completely exposed and there's no, the best thing you can do is get off the top. So there's that.
Yeah.
People turned around from it last year because it just wasn't something they were willing to endure. And rightfully so. I'm not going to tell you either way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I think the footing is completely underrated. And you can't explain that to someone unless you've been in the Crazies.
Yeah.
It's severely bad footing. Like you think you see on the elevation profile, it's downhill. You still probably won't be able to run it because the footing is so bad.
So much shale.
So much shale, rocks, dirt, grass. I mean, there's plenty of off-trail sections where there's no trail whatsoever and you can't see a trail and you're following flag to flag. And then put that in the middle of the night, and it's really hard to navigate. So, I mean, there's route finding. I do my best to flag. I personally think I over-flagged last year because I was terrified that someone would get lost. Luckily, not a single person got lost.
That's amazing.
That's
I was
amazing.
pretty impressed.
That's amazing. No one got lost.
Yeah.
I am very, You don't want to get lost in the Crazies. I mean, you go down the wrong drainage and you're adding hours or cliff jumping, so you just got to really pay attention to that. You can download the map. You should download the map. I've almost made it mandatory, but at some level, I think personal responsibility is a thing. But yeah, please download the map. It's so easy to do. And you can literally just pull your phone out when you're lost and look, and it can hover over where you are in airplane mode. You don't need service, and it won't drain your battery because you're in airplane mode. And then you can find the trail. So, yeah, I think all of those things put together is what makes this, in my opinion, one of the top 5 hardest that I would consider.
Very unique.
The route finding too, when there's no trail and you're walking through uneven terrain in elk tracks all over the place.
All over.
It's just really taxing.
Yeah.
Like
Especially when you're tired.
It's a burly race. It's so awesome that it's in Montana.
Oh, it's so
I just
awesome.
love that.
And the Crazies are so unique. Even just seeing them from a distance, you can see how much of the range is above tree line. And you just look at it from a distance, and you can just see those huge shale fronts in front of you, where the trees aren't going nearly close to the top like you see in other ranges. Just that rocky, gnarly terrain. So many runners that came through our station talked about their feet just being smoked from that footing all day long.
That's Forest Lake. That'll kick you and spit you out.
Yeah.
Kick you while you're down, chew you up and spit you out. I had so many people tell me after Forest Lake, it's a cakewalk because you just got one more hill to climb and then it's just kind of rolling. That is so far from the case. Once you leave Forest Lake, you're so tired to begin with because it's towards the end, and it was, 96 degrees.
It was hot.
That year or last year. So you're already exhausted.
Yep.
If you have a pacer, I'd highly suggest having one for this section because there is zero trail. You literally leave Forest Lake and you go towards the lake, and there's a fun little road. I really love that section. It's just kind of like off the main road. Then you hop back onto the forest road, and then you run that for maybe a mile or so. But then to get to the trail, you just leave the road, and there's you can't see a trail. You're just going up the side of the mountain. That trail is not used often enough to have a road. There's no elk trail. There's nothing. And so you kind of I had so many people tell me we thought that something was wrong because there
They
was
thought they were lost.
There were arrows pointing, but there was no trail. I dug out like a little spot to try to like show that this is indeed where you're supposed to go, but there's just like, there's nothing you can do. So you leave that and you're basically following what I would call like a finger of a mountain. You're just kind of staying on the finger and just heading straight to Mount Elmo. And there's, again, no trail. Sometimes you'll hit like an elk track and then just like vague points of some trail, and then they kind of stop and then they kind of pick up again. And then it's only about, I want to say, less than a mile section, but you're so tired and it's straight up the mountain. Yeah. It's brutal. I didn't hear a single person that loved that section.
Everyone was over that hill for sure. Yeah.
And it's hot. There's no water whatsoever from there to Honey Trail, like at all. It's just the most brutal. I'm actually going to be taking a 4-wheeler. I think there's a spot I can get to drop some Yeti coolers and fill them with just ice and ginger ale and pop and just water, just to like get people through that, because that was by far like the worst. And you can like hear elk bugling through there. When I was flagging it, I was cow calling and getting, elk yelling back at me. It was wild. Like, it's July, guys. Come on.
It's so
It's
awesome.
special too.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
they're just doing their thing.
Yeah.
What was your oldest runner last year?
Oh man, I think 60s. I'd have to look. I know there were several people in their 60s. I don't think anyone was in their 70s, but I could be wrong.
And what was your youngest?
I don't know if I looked at that. It would probably be early 20s. I know this year there's an 18-year-old. I had to double check because I thought he was 17 and I was going to have a problem with that. But no, he's definitely 18 and he's fast.
Wow.
Dang.
So it'll be really fun to watch.
That's amazing at that age to have that sort of discipline.
Yeah, it's an older demographic that's found their way into the ultra scene over the years too. It's like they need some challenge.
Yeah.
And so this has filled that gap. And to see a young person, it's there's not very many of them.
Yeah.
But now as it's grown.
Yeah, there's a real big space there to fill.
Big time.
If you're young and you have the determination to get through something like that, like there's a bright future.
Yeah.
Or maybe you'll just break your belly down. I don't know.
It's a learning opportunity for sure.
Make sure your growth plates are done growing.
Yeah. Oh my. For you too, like your path into the 100-mile world ultra scene, I'd just be curious to hear a little bit more about your path as well, because everybody has a little different story. But for you, like where did you start? Where did you find that this is something that you looked for or began to love?
For running, I'm assuming myself.
Yeah, running.
Yeah. I was always into sports growing up. I loved contact sports. And as a girl, I didn't really play football, but I was the goalie in soccer. I sat in volleyball and I played first base in softball. And I just loved like being aggressive and competitive, and always wanted to beat my brother and stuff like that. And so, as you get older, you realize you don't have high school sports to play. I wanted to go to college and do softball, but then I just my life took a weird turn and I just kind of threw all that out the window. And one day I moved to Montana and went to horseshoeing school.
Oh my gosh.
I just wanted to leave. So that's what I did. I found myself married and to a 4th generation cattle rancher, and kind of sport went out the window. But then it was when I had my first son that I realized I had postpartum depression pretty good. And my idea of getting out of it was I'm going to sign up for something stupid and do something hard. So I signed up for the Ridge Run and I got in.
Oh, man.
And I swear that just kind of had a chain reaction. And I was it sucked. Like, so bad. I remember getting up to like 2 miles of running and thought like, there is no way I'm going to get 19 miles in the mountains there. And I was like, this is the dumbest idea I've ever had. And I did it. And then afterwards, I'm like, I kind of want to do that again.
That was terrible, but I want to do it.
Yes,
again.
exactly.
Oh my
Like that
gosh.
really sucked. So I just kept doing it again, and I got in every year. The only year I didn't get in was because I was 8.5 months pregnant on race day. I didn't think I could pull it off. And I had my son like a week later. So, but yeah, that kind of progressed. I started running longer races and the rut 50K. And then kind of like, it felt like every time I got a distance down, I thought, well, why can't I do like a little bit more? And then a little bit more. And then I remember the day I said, I would never run 100 miles. That is so bad for you. It's probably going to be bad for your knees. And then I was like, I'll run a 50. And then I signed up for that. And then I ran the 50 and I was like, maybe I should run 100. So yeah, to this day, I've never said that I will never run a 200 because I don't want that on my list.
Yeah.
And I've already started looking at some. So it's just a weird progression. And then I ended up getting to be good friends with Nikki Kimball. And she is just like incredible athlete. And she makes it look easy. And I think that's kind of the downfall to me being friends with her is I kept thinking like, well, heck, you know, if she can go run this race and like take second place or first place and like, how hard could it be? You know,
Yeah.
but it's Nikki. So I'm not going to
Right.
be at that level, but it also made it look, you know, doable. So I remember the year we went to Hard Rock and that I had taken a year off of running because it just, I got to a point where I just put too much pressure on myself to perform, and it was just completely unrealistic. I have a full-time cattle ranching job, 2 kids, and all this other stuff going on. And it's just like to put in that kind of training and pressure on myself was just stupid.
Yeah.
So I took the year off, and then Nikki got into Hard Rock, and I was like, okay, I'm going to train enough to pace you there because that is not something I want to miss. We went there, and it was just life-changing just to see those mountains and see those people suffering but enjoying it. I mean, you basically see people at the lowest points of their lives
Yeah.
and still going. It's so inspiring. And so that right there gave me the bug. I was like, okay, maybe I could try 100 miles.
At Hard Rock too, like the finish of the race when they have a cutoff and it's the people that have been out there the longest. It's so incredibly powerful that all the people who have finished, they all rally around the finish line for those last people that come through. And it's heartbreaking
Yeah.
when people don't make the cutoff, but everyone is there. And I think it's very, very rare in sport when the people who have won go back and encourage the people who are going to finish last.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's really special about
So
the ultra
unique.
community. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like,
For sure.
who does that? Like, you're towing the line with these elite athletes.
Yeah.
And they are just like, they're cheering you on.
And a lot of the hundreds, you'll find out like the first place runners, like these, sometimes there's like nobody there. So it's just like at our race, this guy came in and, you know, it was like 7 a.m. and there was nobody, everyone was asleep at the finish line. And so I'm honking my horn. I turned the radio up and I was like, come on guys, like first place. And then a couple people came, but there was like 10 of us. But I made sure it's super important to me to celebrate the last runner. I think they work equally as hard, if not harder,
Yep.
than that first place runner. I mean, that's so rough.
The time difference is insane.
36 hours versus 23 is a big difference.
Big difference.
13 more hours out there
Yeah.
On your
the
feet.
mountain.
You're suffering. And
That's insane.
This guy, so like the first year, I didn't know where to put the cutoffs as they should be like for experience because I have no experience of what they should be. So I did math, and that was the best thing. And then I added time to them, and you know it's all trial and error. So the last place runner actually missed the cutoff, the last aid station cutoff by 15 minutes, but I told my aid station gal there, Kelly, she's one of my best friends. I told her, just be flexible, see how it goes. I hate I would never be able to be that person to tell someone they couldn't finish.
So close.
It's
too.
the worst feeling in the world. So she let him go, and he was adamant. He's like, I'm not stopping. I am this close. I am finishing it. So she's like, I can't stop you from doing that, which was the right decision.
It's amazing.
And he made it to the finish line with about a minute left of the official cutoff. I kept it together until then. I was bawling.
Oh my gosh.
Everyone was cheering. I was so nervous he was going to miss it. I ran out and I started yelling at him and telling him to go faster, faster, faster. Because I lost track of time. We were timing it on my watch because my clock didn't work. Like the whole thing was just so rugged and not fancy, and like there was no booths, and like it was just old school, and that's exactly how I like it. But it was just so nerve-wracking, and to see him finish, like it was everything. It made everything worth it. And he crossed that finish line. He just collapsed and like went by himself somewhere, and I was just like, man. But that's like you said, like that's the ultra community. Yeah. The first place runner always waits for the last place. I mean, if they have a soul, but
they do.
Most people
are
like that. That's why my post-race party is in the golden hour is what it's called. It's the last hour of the race. It's like when you get to see the carnage, and most people end up crying because you can't not cry, knowing how hard that person just pushed to get to where they are. I wanted a crowd there. So I made a post-race party to make sure that there was a huge crowd for the last runners in the last hour. It's just, I don't know. It's probably the most important part for me.
Yeah, it's like a display of human willpower. It's insane.
Yeah.
What people can do mentally, like when their whole body's telling them to stop.
How they keep pushing. I'm like, to be able to push up to that deadline as well when you're completely tapped out and there's still more. There's still more to offer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane.
And this, I mean, another disclaimer, this cutoff is hard. It's not something to scoff at. If you do the math, you have like a little over 21 minutes a mile to finish it, which is not that much time. It sounds easy on paper, but with all of the elements, that's a huge factor in what would also make this what I would consider a top 5 hardest. A lot of races have a 36-hour cutoff. Some have a 46-hour cutoff. I get that a lot. People saying like, you need to extend the cutoff. But part of me is also kind of like, I don't want people to wing this race. I want people to train really hard. And when they finish, they know that they gave everything they had. Yeah. There's no doubt. I still think you could do that in 48 hours, but I wanted to make it hard. Plus, there's also safety issues. The Crazies are not, the safest place in the world. Yep. The more time people are out there, the worse things, the more risk. So just, there's many reasons why the cutoff's like that, but that's kind of most of them. Yeah. So you can't walk it.
And lightning struck your repeater and put your comms down.
Yeah. We had a donated helicopter. We could not afford the helicopter. I've had someone tell me that. Like, man, you better not blow all your money. Like putting all, thanks, Danny. He said, man, when I first, saw that, I thought, man, she's really blowing her money on this helicopter ride. And I was like, no. It was donated. And we were able to drop the repeater on Conical Peak, and we had permission from the landowner and everything. There was this whole great thing. And then the Saturday before the race, it got struck by lightning. And I'm just like, what are the odds? But come to find out, the odds are pretty darn good that it's going to get struck by lightning. So that was a huge problem. But luckily, we have a great ham team, and they just powered through it. And they had mobile repeater sites, and we had all sorts of stuff. And they're a core part of this race, keeping all of the communications up, make sure everyone's safe, and relay information.
Yeah, that team of volunteers that you were able to then put together and compile, truly integral. And that's the power of a team as well. I'm like, just be able to go handle that situation when there's no communication in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And yes, we'll figure it out. Really, really calm. Like, yep, figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was literally last minute.
Yeah.
I mean, this year we're going to have satellite internet. We might have some at Cal Camp. It's very expensive. So I think I can only afford maybe 1 unit, maybe 2. But
We're going to show a movie. We're going to stream a movie.
You can show a movie. Yeah. Then people will stay.
Then they won't make the 21-mile, 21-minute mile.
Don't let them sit there too long.
Yeah.
Purely for communication. But Cal Camp's kind of a dead zone for ham. It was nice to have the repeater because the repeater looks straight at Cal Camp. So that was our main source of communication. So we were limited to an inReach.
Yeah.
So our ham guy didn't even get to really do any ham. So next year we're working on that. It might still be an inReach, but I would love to get one of those, whatever, Elon Musk,
Starlink.
Yeah. Starlink. I
Yeah.
would love to get a Starlink there, and get some communication there. But it's just, you guys do a great job kicking people out. So it's not that risky, but as long as we have an inReach to have communication for like an SOS function, then I think it'll be fine. But yeah, we're working on it.
No, it's amazing for sure. And just to have that in Montana and be able to share that experience here close to home is really, really special. But yeah, those people that are signing up and doing these, I'm like, there's a lot of learning. And as an observer of it, there's a lot of learning that goes on for us too, just like you.
Yeah.
It's like, that's extremely powerful. You've been running for forever. It's
Yeah.
like, go see the last place finisher and
It's so
you'll
awesome.
grow because of that. No doubt.
Yeah.
I loved people coming into the aid station that were smoked and kind of done and ready to tap out, and you'd see them get some snacks and sit down, and then you'd kind of get worried about them sitting too long and kind of locking up. And there was a few that you were pretty sure were done, and then you'd see like another runner sit next to them, like in a lawn chair, and talk them back into it.
Yeah.
Like, you got this, man. Like, we're close. We've gotten this
Yeah.
far. And it was like their competitors were the ones getting them to get back in the race when they probably would have tapped out right there. Like, that was awesome to watch. And that happened like 6 or 7 times.
At the end, when it's like, it's not that many more miles, and you don't think you can go any further. It's like,
Yeah. That's just the community of runners we have. That's what I think is so alluring about ultra running is, there's maybe like a 1% population that are in it to win it. And, but even those people are typically really nice and supportive. Yeah. But the rest of us are just kind of out there like pushing each other along and like haggling each other and making fun of each other, just to like anything you can do to keep moving.
Yeah.
I've never had any negative experiences from other runners on the trail. Cause I mean, you're out in the middle of nowhere doing this ridiculous thing for fun, like you're all crazy.
Yeah. You know that. Crazy and the Crazies.
Yeah. And we all know we are. We don't have to explain it to each other.
It's cool too, because a well-documented mental toughness principle is pessimistic optimism, to where you can make fun of bad situations and you can just watch ultra runners do that right in front of your eyes. Like they're so beat up at mile 80, but they're still like making jokes.
Yeah.
Which is getting them through like the last 20 miles. It's amazing.
Or a shot of wild turkey. At the
Wild turkey. Well-placed shot of wild turkey. Yes.
Yeah.
Will be a bad decision that you'll make fun of yourself for too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get you up and get you moving. Yeah, it is. It is like, it's really, really, really powerful, and just the ability to go and move, see some country as well. Dustin and I too, I'm like, we talk a lot, like, the cold plunge. You did the cold plunge after we got done working out. And it's like, gosh, I don't want to do that. And it's like, like the first few minutes or 20 minutes of something are the worst. And then after that, it's like game on. Like, this is amazing. It wasn't as difficult as I
Wasn't.
made it out to be.
Yeah.
Not that you sat in a cold plunge for 20 minutes, but
No.
the same sort of principles apply too. And even setting out for a 100-miler, I'm like,
Yeah.
it's like, go 1 foot in front of the other, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just doing hard things.
Yeah, doing hard things. I'm like, it's a big deal. I'm like, we talk a lot about it too, like manufactured hardship. We got to sign up for these things to do it, because it wasn't too long ago that, well, you're on a ranch. Like, yes, you are doing physical labor all day long, all the time, but for most of us, that's not our day in and day out.
It's like calving season. It's wild. Yeah. We don't need to give ourselves anything harder to do than that.
Sleep deprivation in ultra running, has that helped you in calving season?
Oh, for sure. But I think the calving season has helped me for ultra running.
Oh, yeah.
And it's been in reverse, because I remember we used to calve a lot earlier. And I would always take the night shift, because I do better with less sleep than my husband does. He's a little cranky pants if he doesn't get his sleep. So I would stay up until my shift would end at like 3 to 4 a.m. And so I'd be up all night. And I remember one year I got, like, I think it was called like H influenza or some like bad bug. And I was sick for like 3 weeks. But I'm too stubborn to go to the doctor. And so I just was out there calving all night long. And I remember like just kind of like dozing off and falling over and calving a few times, or just kind of like not knowing where I was. But you still got to do it, because if you don't, calves die. So
Yeah.
it just, that kind of stuff we're kind of used to. So I think ultra running was, I don't know, maybe a little easier. I don't know. Or it's just a stubborn trait that I have. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like staying up all night. Like, yeah. But yes, you do have a good reason. There's a life and a livelihood
Yeah.
there as well.
You're not doing that in 100. Like, no one's going to die if you don't do it. So
Right.
Yeah. Getting used to that hardship, though.
Yeah.
So year 2 coming up this summer for the Crazy Mountain 100. What are the big takeaways from last year that you want to see happen differently this year? Anything you'd want to change?
Yeah, just logistics wise. Don't run out of watermelon at one aid station. Don't run out of ginger ale and Coke at the next. I need a shuttle for Half Moon. I just got word today, actually, that I got a van secured to take drops back, because Half Moon, I didn't, you never know where people are going to drop and when.
Yeah.
But Half Moon by far is the biggest drop spot. I think it was something like 20 or 30% people dropped there. So just having that shuttle would be great. Because I remember I was at the finish line and we got word that we needed like 20 people to have a ride to the finish. And that aid station is like 2.5 hours away from the finish line. So we're like, oh, that's 5 hours for us. Like, you guys are going to be waiting a long time. And you just never know. Like, I encourage people to, if you're crewing someone and your runner drops, like, just wait like 20 minutes and pick up some more runners, because that's super helpful. And it decreases the amount of traffic and stuff like that. So just, logistics wise, all sorts of things. We didn't run out of water, thankfully. Apparently I overestimated that.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That is A-okay.
I'm adding like it cost too. It's just hard to know first year of what, so I saved and saved and saved to make sure we had enough to put the race on. You can only know so much. So this year, I added like a couple of swag things and like got some hats and cool stuff like that. But yeah, overall, like I had 2 years to prepare the logistics. I think, nobody died, nobody got lost, and I think it went pretty well.
Oh,
Yeah.
it went so well.
It went amazing.
Like just instant feedback of like, out of my network, I got to do that next year.
Yeah.
Like, I got to go. And because people are really nervous about a first year race.
Oh, for sure. With good cause.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, because there's a lot of bad experiences out there on some of them, and some of them don't even go a second year because of that. But I was like, to be able to do that and do it with grace too, because I can only imagine all the logistics pieces and everyone calling on you because you're the race director.
Yeah.
and not having great communication methods because, there's not service and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, that, from my perspective, seemed like it had been going on for 10, 15 years. I was like, it was that level. And we got out of the mountains and then heard about all this too. So we didn't even know until after the
you
fact.
had no service.
Like it was amazing. Like just to be able to see that and see it happen. Like it's a true success story and really, really special for Montana runners, definitely.
Well, and I think that's it right there is I give most of that success to the people who were there volunteering because truly it was the best of the best people out there. Every aid station was just packed with people that really wanted to be there. Some people realized they were in over their head, but like it wasn't bad, Everyone, I don't know, there was just like this sense, the most feedback I got from runners, I did a little survey after, was that the volunteers were the best they have ever seen at any ultra. And this is coming from people that have ran like 100 ultras. Like by far, hands down, best volunteers.
So cool.
It was just awesome. I was like, dang, like, man, you guys made me look real good.
It's just, it's a special event. And I'm like, to pull it off in these mountains here, I'm like, you do. You drive down I-90 and you look up at those things all the time and you're like, wonder what's in the middle.
Yeah.
In a good way to go find what's in the middle is to sign up for a 100-miler.
Yeah.
So awesome.
That or get a mountain goat tag.
Yeah, mountain
I feel
goat
like
tag.
I need to draw that now.
Chris Thorson, he had one.
Yeah.
I know every inch of that range now, so I'm like, I could use a tag. Come on.
It's coming your way. I have no say in that, for sure. But one day,
pull some strings for me.
It'll happen.
Enough volunteer activity, but it's really, really cool, and it's fun to get to hear a bit more of the story. I think I remember talking to you at the Rut when you were entertaining doing a 100-miler, and I'm like, you can do a 100-miler. You can do a 100-miler tomorrow. I guarantee it, which is amazing too. And you took it to a whole nother level for sure. 200-miler, I don't know either, but
I think that's kind of I don't know if it's I think it's a downfall, but for me, it's still kind of a stubborn strength. I like trying hard things and pushing your limits. And I think a lot of us do. And so that's kind of where that progression comes from. It's like, I could never, and I'm picky, like I could never go out and run like a flat, hot pavement 100. That would never happen. And
Brutal.
I have zero desire to do that. But like put me in the mountains, like where I'm happy. It's like bow hunting. I don't bow hunt as much as I used to just because I need to spend my time running. But I think it's kind of the same passion there because when you're out hunting, you're deep, deep in the mountains. You're out with nature. You're figuring out patterns of the animals. You're up close and personal, and there's almost like a spiritual element to that where it just fills your soul. And I think ultra running is right there with that. So I think if I wasn't ultra running, I would definitely be hunting more. Yeah. It's like one or the other. Like I gotta have one of those two things going because any excuse to get me in the backcountry I'm gonna be there. So I don't know.
It's like doing hard things changes people's lives, but doing hard things in the backcountry is like a whole nother spiritual element.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
The outdoors changes the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just being out there in nature and seeing all of God's creation and just being able to absorb it. I don't know. I think everyone needs to experience a little bit of that at some point in their life.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what everyone needs, really.
It comes down to it. I do love I love the correlation between ultra running and having to stay up for that long, and then your job of being a rancher. Like in calving season, like that correlation, it's hard to make that in like a desk job. Like, hey, this ultra run helped me in this fashion, but that right there is really evident. And you pull those little pieces, those nuggets that you learn from a relatively short race into the rest of life too. So it's really cool. It comes down to it.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the call to action. Is people need to do something really hard outside.
Yeah.
Go night calving.
Yeah.
Go night.
And help someone calve.
I'm taking applications.
Yeah.
The pay is 0, but the work's great.
And people do my friends at ranch, they're like, I lose the most weight in calving season because I'm
That's
like
true.
up all the time. I'm not eating anything. I'm just drinking coffee.
100% true.
Just a coffee diet.
Yeah.
Try training for 100 during calving. It's
Oh my
the worst
gosh.
time in my entire life. I am so cranky. And I have 100 in June, and I'm already dreading it because,
Oh my gosh.
you're not sleeping, and then you have to go run to train, and you're already depleted of sleep. But then at the same point, it's like, well, you are training the sleep deprivation. So I got that down.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
That's
Trying to brain
insane.
that way. I'm like, well, today too, I'm like, you get to skip your speed run.
Yeah, I'm definitely
Thanks
skipping
to
that.
hill sprints, essentially, in a gym. Which, by the way, thanks for coming into the gym, too.
Yes, it was amazing.
It's
a sweet
really
spot.
fun. Oh.
Yeah. I'm super stoked you were able to make it by.
I'm going to have to invite myself more often.
You should. It's what we do, and it's fun to get to share these stories and then be able to share that with others as well. I was like, yes. I'm like, it might nudge some people to sign up for something.
Yeah.
It might just, make people go, hey, I can handle this situation that I'm in for sure.
Yeah. I did have a friend the other day tell me that they met someone that they didn't think was a runner, and they found out that they were running 100-mile races, and they thought no way that this person, does that. They just didn't think that that was something they would do. And I got to thinking what would make you think that a personality type or something can't do hard things? It's just go try it. If you want to run, go run. You don't have to run 100 miles. You can go run 20 feet. And then the next day you can run 40 feet. And then you just keep building. It's you got to start somewhere. Just
Big time.
get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, once you get uncomfortable, you'll realize that that wasn't as hard as you thought. Or maybe it was that hard, but then you can improve upon it. That's what I want people to do. That's another part of why I love this race so much. It's this is going to be really freaking hard, but you're going to do it, and it's going to change your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Absolutely.
I think in closing too, we should acknowledge we're super proud of you, and it's awesome that you started that race, because that's another big element here is watching the risk you took to put that race together. Because that's a lot of people are really scared to take that leap of faith, just signing up for 100. They have these amazing ideas, whether it's for a business or anything else, but they're just scared to start putting the pieces together and picking up the phone and making those phone calls. And so it's really cool that you had the vision and you had the idea, and then you just figured out a way to make it happen. We're definitely super appreciative and proud of you for that. That's amazing.
Big time.
That
Just even putting the funds aside to be I want to do this. It's all your money, your family's money to be able to buy the food to put this first race on. That's it. It's not a business venture. It's a passion project. And it's really, really life-changing. So
that is something that's important to me. Is I don't want this race to be something that I earn an income off of. That's great that people do that, and I totally support that. But I want it to be grassroots, old school. I don't make money off of it. Any money I make off of it, I put back into the race, or I donate to something. It would be different for me if I was making a huge profit. It would just change the feel of it, or my reasons for putting it on. So my husband did tell me eventually you got to make a little bit to pay for the guy we have to hire for the 2 weeks that you're gone, because we have to put him in the tractor while you're not in the tractor, because we're haying in July.
Yes.
And so I was okay, I will try to get that done, but that's it.
Oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
So
That's amazing.
that was our deal. It's just make enough to pay the hired hand that needs to replace you.
Yes.
But yeah, the reason why I'm doing it is not, to build a business, but there was a lot of sleepless nights of like, what are you doing? This is a terrible idea. So many like, what if this happens? Or,
But you did it.
part of it.
Did it.
And it's gonna like, these things have generational impacts. So like last year, someone's life definitely got changed.
For
and that's
sure.
going to change generations just
Yeah.
for you taking that risk and putting something together that was really hard and complicated.
Yeah.
But it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The little kids that watch that,
Oh, yeah.
watch their parents, watch someone running, see that last place finisher.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a huge, huge impact. Like they can't help but cheer,
Yeah.
I'm like young
my
and old.
son,
Yeah.
my son was so inspired. He went to your aid station and they were camping and playing with sticks and they're just giving runners water and ginger ale. They just thought like, who are these crazy people? But one of the runners named Lawler was there and he ended up helping coach cross country at my son's school.
No way.
And my son remembered him coming through the aid station and said, that guy was super cool, Mom. Like, maybe I will
Dang.
try to run cross country this year. And that was like the best day of my
Oh my
life.
gosh.
Like, you want to do what?
Dang.
And he took up cross country and come to find out he's actually really good at running.
Oh my goodness.
He started like taking top 3 at every meet. He placed 10th in his first meet and where he was like, there was like 100 runners and he's like, that was fun. 0 training. I'm like,
my
okay,
gosh.
maybe I did pass something on to you. I'm not fast, but like, man, he had so much fun. And it was all because of this race. He got to watch some people do some crazy stuff. And now he's telling me things like, I'm going to run my first 100 and I'm going to kick your butt, Mom. So now I have to train harder.
Oh my gosh.
That is so
That's
awesome.
amazing. Yeah. Just like one little instance
Yep.
right there. And then another one. And Lawler is amazing.
Yeah, he is. He
Hands
helped a
down.
ton.
He's
he helped
amazing.
me with some routing stuff too.
Oh
He was
my gosh.
pretty clutch.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
is
inspiration's so cool.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
fantastic. I'm like, it's part of why this is so important.
Yeah.
I'm like, big time. I love it.
Well, Megan, thanks for coming by. Thanks for everything you do. Now we have to cold plunge again.
I'm out. I've got to be somewhere.
Before and after.
I've been shivering this entire time.
I finally just stopped shivering like 2 minutes ago.